Hello, Purz.
Hello.
Um, Welcome to the first episode of Ideation Station, where I interview artists. I get to speak to artists, technologists, and future-minded folk about new ideas and cool stuff, which includes you, of course. Now, for those of you who don't know Purz, I pity you, but I'll give you a brief introduction. Purz is a 3D artist, Blenderhead, and creative director of his own various brands and of his bands. He's a drummer and a wonderful pillar of the community, and I'm so happy to speak to him today.
Well,
Welcome.
thank you, Ellie. Jeez, holy cow. I don't know if I call myself a pillar of the community, but definitely around.
I consider you a pillar of the community.
Well, thank you. I consider you one too.
Oh, wow. We're both pillars, just holding up the roof, raise the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So basically in this little chat, we're probably going to go for about an hour. We're going to talk about art for the first 15 minutes, and then talk about Blender, and then move on to crypto stuff, and then finally talk about the future of work and education. So the first question I have for you, Purz, is when did you start considering yourself an artist?
I don't really know. I've always felt like as a drummer and as a producer, I've always been an artist in that capacity, but visually, probably around when I sold my first NFT is when I was like, okay, yeah, maybe there's something to this, and just sort of use that energy to drive, everything forward from there.
Awesome. That was so when you sold your first NFT, was that recently?
It was May of last year, I believe.
Okay.
May 31st-ish, I think, was around the first my first sale, which was really cool. On Tezos, actually. I started on the Clean network first, yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you've only considered yourself an artist for about 2 years, a little under 2 years?
Yeah, visual artist, yeah, definitely. I've always made stuff for our backgrounds at our shows, but that was more just like to complement the music. I wasn't really considering myself making art at that point. It's just like kaleidoscoping footage I found and stuff like that, and visually glitching stuff. And I've always glitched stuff, and I've always made cover art and stuff for our albums, but I never considered myself an artist because I can't draw and I can't do any of that like old world stuff that traditional artists would actually probably consider prerequisites for being an artist. So,
Yeah.
it's a weird place to be in for sure.
But you've been a musician for like many decades, is that right?
Yeah. But being a drummer for like 30 years, playing in bands for about 25. Yeah.
That's a long time. Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about your first drum experience with the drums, or your first experience with music when you started creating music?
Yeah, it was just a kid. I got French horn in elementary school, so they made me play, but I really wanted percussion, so I kept bugging my parents, and they got me a drum kit pretty early, and they were really cool about just letting me bang and not telling me to shut up and stuff, and which is
awesome,
amazing, because people don't get that, so I feel very lucky to have that. None of my family's musical. My mom plays the piano a bit, but nobody pursued music in any capacity in my immediate family, so I think it was just cool to just have something that was mine, and that was fun. And then ended up getting on the drums eventually in high school and pushing through, getting into bands, and then producing in early 2000s, and then just all trying to tie it all together for like 20 years, then the pandemic, and now this. So
wow, you really just summarized many decades with a little bow. That's amazing that your parents were so down to let you bang on the drums and create a
Yeah.
joyful ruckus when you were a child.
Yeah.
Um, like I feel like music lives in all of us,
Hmm.
and I'm always super excited to meet people who are like the first in their family line to like really, really like embrace music.
Mm.
Like you mentioned, your mom was pianist, but your parents weren't really big into music, so that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
What was the name of your first band? This is really just for me, just for fun.
Sunship Red.
Sunship
Uh,
Red.
yeah, it was the first band we were in.
Have you
We were all
mid-journeyed that
right.
yet?
No, that's actually not a bad idea. Actually,
Bro.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Mid
Um,
journey that.
let's do it.
Yeah, that
Maybe.
was high school. Yeah, high school. Good
Okay.
times.
Who was in the band? Was it just like, did you have a guitarist, a bassist?
Yeah, I played drums. There was two guitar players, actually, well, three guitar players because one of them sang and a bassist.
Okay.
So the singer played guitar as well. So yeah, it was really cool. Lots of strange progressive stuff. We're a little older for our age. Like it was a little like we all had the same music teacher, and he basically would group us together on the weekends in bands and then teach those as separate lessons. So that was our first sort of thing. It was really cool because
That's so cool.
he'd been in a million bands, so he'd be like, "This is why you guys are fighting right now, and this is why it was amazing because we learned how to like have band relationships and communicate.
Yeah, you had
So that
like
was really
band
helpful.
therapy, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
with like a guy who'd been through everything.
Dude, that's freaking amazing. That
Yeah,
curriculum needs to be adopted worldwide
oh
by
yeah,
band teachers
yeah.
in particular.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
awesome.
so cool. Okay, so what was your first like piece of visual art? I know you said you started considering yourself a visual artist only about 2 years ago. Um,
Hmm.
but you've been making album art for a while. So what was that first piece? What did it look like? What was it for?
Um, First piece was probably album art for one of my first releases, which was probably just a photograph I messed up in Photoshop or something. I used to be really into making backgrounds out of textures in Photoshop, like way back. So I'd like take a picture of something with my crappy digital camera and then put some terrible, presets on it, and that's all it would took. So,
Did
yeah.
you have a favorite like filter? Like, did you do mosaic or
I was really into the
sharpen?
alien skin stuff, which is like, it was like a whole bunch of
Interesting.
stuff that we kind of have access to now that didn't. I don't know. It's hard to describe. They just had a bunch of really trippy effects for Photoshop. Like they made up their own filters, then their own plugin. Like it was
Ah.
really cool. Yeah, it was really neat.
So what
Lots
is
of like ways to like twist up the pixels and all kinds of crazy stuff that I hadn't seen anywhere else.
were you paying for Photoshop like back in the day? Was it always expensive?
I was I couldn't afford Photoshop, but that wasn't going to stop me. I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're well versed in the open sharing of the internet.
I mean, I think like as a creative as anyone, you kind of got to try that stuff somehow, and I don't know. Eh,
Hmm.
I don't have any moral. If I can afford it, I'm making money using it. Absolutely, I'll buy it because it's a tool that's things. But when you're a kid and you're just learning stuff, I don't know. It's great that they have educational stuff now, but they didn't have that back then. You just had to like buy it or steal it, and so
Yeah.
we stole it.
Yeah. 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 You did what you had to do to make
Yeah,
the dream come true.
but I like buying plugins and stuff from like independent artists and stuff like on Gumroad. Like I'm a big proponent of that, and I'm always telling people to raise their prices because I think you should pay for convenience, and I just want to double down on that because like when I couldn't afford it, it was definitely something I believe in. But if you can afford it, there's no reason to steal stuff.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Like support artists who make cool stuff, especially
Yeah.
cool add-ons and features for free and open source programs, which we'll
Hmm.
get into shortly. Both Purz and I are big into Blender. I don't know if the term Blenderhead is like as prevalent as I think it is, but I use it all the time. I've got ahead and I didn't say
Blendarian.
blender. Blendarian. We're in
Blendarian.
Blendarians.
Blendites.
Okay, there we go. Blendites. I like that. Okay, so we talked about like music and your first experience making visual art, even though you didn't quite consider yourself an artist. But I think another interesting aspect of your journey as an artist and a creator and a creative director is just your like fluency in computers. Like you've been into computers from a very young age, is that right?
On a Commodore 64 when I was 4, I think. My dad got one. It
Okay.
was awesome. Yeah. Before there were PCs like Windows and all that stuff, there were a few machines that predated those, and Commodore was a company that made those type of machines. Before there were like what they call clone PCs, which is just all the stuff we have now where you just buy a PC and run Windows on it and life goes on. Back in the day, you had to write everything. So Commodore would write their whole operating system. Apple would write their whole operating system, and it was all proprietary stuff. So it was basically ran in a basic programming language, which is 10 do something, 20 do the next thing, 30 do the next thing. And if you need to go back in the program, you say, go to 20. Like you have to procedurally write all your code basically line by line.
Whoa.
And that's basically how I started, was just typing in code from all these like magazines and stuff to make games and then saving them to disks and then to play them later with my friends and stuff like that. That sort of stuff I think just makes you unafraid of messing computers up down the road because you've seen the code and it's not that scary.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really great point, actually. Like, personally, I get intimidated when I see code, but it's probably just
Yeah.
because it feels so unfamiliar and foreign.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you grew
I
up,
do too when it's like I don't understand code, but like just having a background in web design and stuff like that, it's the first few layers aren't scary, and then all the stuff above where all the really smart people are, that stuff's terrifying.
yeah, for sure. What was the first like piece of art that you made using the Commodore system?
There was a program called Logo, and it was like a little turtle, and you would say like draw this far and then draw this far and then draw this far and then draw this far, and that would draw a square. So you had to mathematically map out all your drawings on paper and then figure out the angles to make it draw the thing. So yeah, that's like the first drawing software I used, but that was hard to use.
Wow, we're so lucky. Like the
Yeah.
software that we have today, like young
Oh yeah.
people, like we don't appreciate it. Like we have
Nah.
zero gratitude for the ease in which we
Yeah.
can create something that looks dope. Okay, so for y'all listening, Purz and I met through basically Discord servers that are
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to learning different aspects of Blender, which is a free and open source 3D creation suite. I discovered Blender about 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. What's your Blender journey, Purz? I'm actually really excited to ask you this question because I haven't even heard your answer personally. So,
So for about 5 years before the pandemic, I was making VJ rigs with my iPad and a Resolume Arena, which is a VJ software. Um,
mhm.
and so with that, I was messing up footage and twisting it around. And then I had this iPad that you could basically I had all the controls mapped out with Touch OSC on the iPad. So when we were playing, I could just hand the iPad out to somebody in the crowd, and they could do our visuals while we were playing because they could like tap stuff while we're doing stuff, and like it was really fun and interactive. And
That is so
so
dope. Yeah.
yeah, it was awesome. And then, pandemic happened and live shows stopped. And then I thought, well, maybe I always wanted to make the footage, like I was twisting up like people's stuff and all kinds of other just random stuff I grabbed off like archive.org, like old cartoons and stuff like that, and just twisting it and messing it up with shaders and other stuff in the VJ software.
Hmm.
But, I just wanted to make it. So I guess basically by like 2 months after everything went like quiet, I've started watching Ducky 3D tutorials on like how to do like low poly landscapes because I just wanted to have that spaceship flying over the low poly landscape with the sunset in the background just for one of our things. And I was like, well, it can't be that hard to make. And then Ducky had a whole thing for it, so I made that in like an hour, and I was like, okay, yeah, Blender's all
Heck
right.
yeah.
And yeah, so I did a tutorial or two a day for about a year and a half, and then yeah, now I'm at the
Okay.
point where I can sort of skip through the tutorials and just be like, oh, that's how they did it. That's cool. And then go and try and do it myself and then go back to tutorial if I get stuck. But it's been a lot of osmosis learning by tutorials and watching people do stuff and learning their tricks. Yeah,
Yes. Shout out to Ducky 3D.
yeah,
Like,
big
let's
time.
go.
Yeah.
Um, so you
Default
started,
Cube and Curtis and everybody, Aaron. Oh, learned so much from Arondale. Yeah, I'm gonna forget some people, but yeah, absolutely, all those people are great.
yeah, totally on board with you there. Aarondale makes procedural art in Blender and has a robust YouTube channel, and honestly an amazing Discord server with like brilliant people on there who are just so eager to help you. Like it's their joy to help you learn. So that's been awesome. Purz and I are both, you know, fairly active on that Discord.
Hmm.
Um, but so you started learning Blender at the beginning of the pandemic. So we kind of started at the same time. That's
I think
cool.
so.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that. I
yeah.
always thought you were like some vet. Um, so dope. Cool,
After
cool.
Effects, but not Blender. Like 2D stuff, but not 3D. Yeah, 3D was new to me.
I actually
Just
remember
navigating that 3D space was hard at first.
I remember watching one of your streams on Twitch. Um, Hers has a Twitch that I'll link in the description below. Below. And where he streams all his art making processes. Uh, and I tuned into one of your streams, like your VJ stuff, really, really early on.
Mm,
And that was super, super cool. And I had never heard about these music visualization softwares. I always thought you had to like build them from scratch. So it was cool. You're kind of a person who I think, a person, but also an artist who like uses resources really well. Um, to like enhance your workflow, to get it done, to get your art out into the world. And for me who kind of like struggles with using other people's work without feeling kind of maybe like an imposter, it's it's
mm.
it's been inspiring for me to put my work out there. So thanks so much for
Oh, good.
that.
Well, no, yeah, yeah. Yes, I think you should leverage any tools available. That's why they're there. Never feel bad about using something that gets you to the destination. Especially if you bought that thing. That's what it's for. You know,
Yeah,
it's
so
all good.
so true.
Yeah.
Um, So, okay, so we talked about how you got into Blender and a little bit about all the people who helped you on your Blender journey. Um, what have you discovered about yourself as an artist as you've become more proficient in creating your own work?
Mostly that I shouldn't have been afraid of all the stuff I was afraid of trying. Like like everything that I've taken a crack at, like a serious crack at, has been nowhere near as scary as it seems before you start. Even Houdini, I'm not even close to being, you know, useful in Houdini yet, but uh I made a couple things and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Um, don't be scared. That's the thing I learned the most is that we all have the capacity to figure it out. I don't know what your learning style is. Everyone has a different one. I monkey see, monkey do. If I go along with someone, I learn kinetically. But if someone tells me a bunch of stuff, it just goes straight through my brain and out the other side. And if it's a big, long, scary textbook of stuff where I have to keep reading and going through, I will get terrified and run away. So I think there's three kinds of learning, right? There's visual. Well, I think there's more, but there's the three major ones that they talk about are visual, audio, and kinetic learning, where people learn by seeing, people learn by hearing, and people learn by doing. And most people are some combination of those three. But for me, seeing and hearing, not so much. Music, yes, but not words. I don't know why. Um, if I'm doing something along with someone, I can put the process into muscle memory or whatever it is. And then I know, oh, when I got to do this, I do that. And this is why. And that's easy.
Hmm.
There's a few there's just, I want to say, Aarondale and Daniel Schiffman, who is the Coding Train on YouTube, are two people who, when they encounter a problem during a tutorial that they're working on, they'll walk it over to the chalkboard and start drawing what the problem is and how they're solving it. And that method helps me so much, because they're doing it, and then they get there, and then they show you why this isn't working and what you need to do to solve the problem. And for me, that is like just like the best way to learn, for my little combination of learning styles.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with the term kinetic learning, so that's really cool
Yeah, I
that you
don't know if
said.
no, that's just what I heard.
Okay. So you said visual, audio, and kinetic.
Hmm.
And you mentioned earlier you started learning Blender through tutorials. So
Yeah,
did you watch the tutorial uh, at the same time as trying to recreate the tutorial?
yeah.
So it
Oh,
wasn't
tutorial on the
just
second screen,
active.
and then doing it at the same time. Yeah, step by step.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great like little nugget to put out into the world in terms of how to learn on a platform
Hmm.
like YouTube and from tutorials and stuff, because I think it's super easy to fall in the trap of like passive consumption of tutorials.
Yeah, if you
Uh
watch a tutorial in the living room or something, I mean, actually, it's good for me now that I'm more versed in the software. I can watch some people's tutorials passively and still gain knowledge, because I already know how to do the stuff. They're just coming at it a different way, which opens up a door for me. But I would say, as a beginner, just watching tutorials for me is, oh, it is a waste of time.
yeah.
It's cool and it's fun, but I'm not retaining anything.
Yeah. I think I was the same way at first. Like I'd watch
Hmm.
tutorials in hopes of like absorbing some of that knowledge, and then get kind of overwhelmed by like just the UI for me was kind of overwhelming at first because, I only really started like spending any time on the computer in 2017, 2018. So any kind of UI situation was a huge like change. Uh,
For sure.
and so I would kind of passively watch these tutorials and like hope that I would gain some knowledge. And there's also like this interesting genre on YouTube in particular of like edutainment, um, where it's like kind of meant to teach you something, but it's also meant to be like entertaining. So you can do
Yeah,
like
something
you
you
can,
tune into.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of passively, actively consume that. Um,
And I think that's totally valid once you get past that super duper beginner stage where you're not even aware of what all the tools are, or let alone, how to use them. But once you know what everything is, like, it's kind of helpful to watch these edutainment videos, because like it'll just break a concept for you in a way that you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll try that. And
yeah.
you might come up with something to do with it later. And that's the
Mhm.
other thing, is like, take that tutorial stuff and just make that was the other thing I should have said. Every time I did a tutorial, I would do the tutorial, then I would sit there and make my own piece using that method to make sure that it's in there.
Yeah.
And then I would go back to the tutorial if I was confused. But I think that's another important step, is like making something of your own using that method, or whatever, that you just kind of monkeyed. Because like,
Hmm.
that's a trap too, if you just do the one-to-one tutorial thing, you're like, I made this. It's like, well, I mean,
You got to put your own twist on it. Come on.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, true. It's just like the like self-assigned work, like the autotelic aspect of learning online, basically. So you're giving
Hmm.
yourself an assignment to like solidify and crystallize the
Yeah.
methods that you're trying to learn. So let me ask you, Purz, what are you excited, like what methods are you super excited about right now, and what tools like specifically like this past week, this past 2 weeks that have really got you jazzed for art making in the future?
Well, definitely the AI stuff.
Okay.
Recently got into Dolly too, and that once we get that stuff in our workflows, I think that's the next step.
So for
But right
those of
now, I'm
you
just in.
who
Oh, go
don't
ahead.
know, I just got to jump in and define for the listeners. Um, so, and feel free to correct me if I'm missing some important details. So, Dolly is basically a machine learning model that's hosted on a cloud um, that specializes in text to image generation, meaning the user can input a string of text, like a sentence prompt, and then Dolly will kind of do its thing. The machine learning model will do its thing, and then uh, you'll receive like a image. An image will be created, um, and it'll be based on your prompt.
Yeah,
So yeah, so there's Dolly and there's Midjourney, which is the same idea, but they're different machine learning models, and they're different companies or organizations doing that.
yeah.
And so, how have you used that in your workflow, and what's
Um.
exciting about that?
Well, so for one, I have aphantasia, so I can't visualize things. So just having access to an imagination from the beginning has been
Yeah.
incredible. I was lucky enough to get into the Midjourney Wave one, which was like when they first started, and I've been able to explore their algorithm quite a bit, and it's really helped my imagination quite a bit when it comes to scene composition and studying things like that. Like, uh, m- uh, you can build a piece of Midjourney and then just look at it and be like, all right, well, I'm gonna recreate this whole thing in Blender. And to me, that's so cool. Like, just as an inspiration generator, even before the whole argument of whether people generating prompts is that art, blah blah blah. I think it is, but I'm on that side of the fence on that one. Uh, a lot of people don't. A lot of people are terrified. A lot of people think that it's going to take their jobs away. But I think all these tools will just find ways to compartmentalize them into our workflow, because nothing I've seen can replace what a human can do when it comes to like a stylized, direct, uh, you know, absolute understanding of the brand and the concept and execution. I haven't seen that yet, but I've seen some amazing stuff that we can use to get us there.
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, and like per Purz and I talk about this all the time in various Discord servers. Um, and there is a real fear people have of like creatives' jobs being replaced. But
Mhm.
I like what you said about like using Dolly and Midjourney almost as like a concept art generator. Are there renders like that you've done that maybe I can throw up here visually in the edit that you've like taken the concept from a Midjourney render and then recreated it yourself in Blender
I haven't recreated any Mid-Journey stuff
or
in
a
Blender
Dolly?
yet, but I or Dolly. No, Dolly we can't do really anything. We can do derivatives, but it's all a little legally squishy squashy right now. So I'm just gonna leave Dolly alone as far as commercial stuff goes. But Midjourney has a very robust commercial plan. It's really cool. If as long as you're in, you can release your stuff commercially. So what I've
Mhm.
been doing is taking the stuff I make with Midjourney and glitching it up and putting it in a CRT, like a CRT emulator thing in Blender, and then filming the screen. So I get those nice scan lines, and it looks like it's on a television. You get all the emissive, loveliness. So that's something I've been really enjoying. Is like taking the images and collaging and messing with them and glitching them and twisting them, and then turning them into something new. It's really cool. And I think there's
Oh.
like what's going to happen soon, and it's sort of happening already, is people are going to take 9 or 10 of these images and then start cutting out the lines and collaging them into these super like mega, you know, collages of AI generated beautiful stuff that you would take too long to generate, procedurally. But if you took all the stuff you like and smash it into one big piece, and sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, I actually haven't thought about that specifically, but that would be super, super neat. I was
Mhm.
talking to a friend yesterday who would like input images through like style GANs and then
Mhm.
upscale like upres the output, and it looks so like so much better than just the output itself. So just like the creative stacking of different machine learning models
Yeah.
um, is like a potential like new workflow that the future may hold for some
And
folks.
it's exciting because a lot of it is available right on the web. Like if you think your mid journey, you take it into Photomosh, do some stuff there, take it out of there and put it in Photopea, finish it. You've never left the web. You know, you've been on Discord, but you never left. You know, you didn't need to download a thing
Yeah,
to your computer to make a piece of art. And I think that's really cool and democratizing because suddenly you can just generate an entire piece of art from a crappy tablet. That's
yeah,
really exciting for people who can't afford to have these giant beefy render PCs sticking around with these big graphic cards that are insanely overpriced for the average person. It's nobody needs that stuff, you know, from a day-to-day point of view. If
yeah,
you're into gaming, you can get a card for a fraction of the price. It's going to get you there, but
totally,
so it's
totally,
cool.
totally.
It's cool.
Uh,
Excited.
like, have you seen that like Photoshop is coming out with a free web version?
Oh, that's good.
Like I saw this
Probably tired of
yesterday.
Photopea taking all their dues.
Yeah. I mean, Photoshop is better, I think, than Photopea. I've used Photopea for the
Oh, for
past
sure.
7
Yeah,
months,
absolutely. But
and
yeah,
it's
it's
just
just, you
kind of a
know, but it's
pain.
handy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's handy.
it's free and
Yeah.
handy.
But if you got
So,
Photoshop, Photoshop is Photoshop.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I've also seen you, Purz, put together some really cool collections that you've minted up on a couple different art markets. Um,
Mhm.
so you've also, from my perspective, kind of been a curator. You generate like lots and lots of pieces, and then you basically curate your own collection from that, and that's definitely a creative and artistic process. Can you talk a little bit about curation, and then we can jump into um, NFTs and what your experience in that realm has been like?
Um, Curation for me is just about making sure the stuff that I make matches my taste, and matches what I wanted. So when I make a collection, it's just a gut yes or no, does this belong in the collection or not? So like as far as like do I have criteria for what makes a collection or what? No, I don't. It's all literally like, yeah, right. Or no. Yeah, that's and I think and I'm sure there's 1,000 things in my brain forming that thought at the time, but I can't put context to any of it. It's just, you know, does this piece speak to me? Does it mean anything to me? Does it do anything for me? I sort of have this thing where it's like if it doesn't make my brain tingle or whatever, then it just goes in the that was fun pile. But the stuff I released, I try to make sure it meets a certain standard of like I really enjoy that, and I think that someone who likes the stuff I like would like that, and that's all I can do really. Because like trying to chase what other people like it's a nightmare. Trying to chase the trends and trying to figure out what people like and then jump on that and then release a collection and then have that done and then move on to the next thing a week later. That is so mind-numbingly exhausting that for me I just think like I'll just make the stuff and the people who like it will like it and the people who don't can buy something else and life will go on. That's my
Knock
theory
on
about
wood.
curation. Yeah,
Yeah.
and life will continue in some capacity.
Uh-huh. So okay, so that's kind of how you approach curating. It seems that you're describing sort of a sixth sense, like a connection with your intuition, uh, putting together images that you said a little generate a little tingle in
Yeah, well,
your
I mean, sometimes
brain.
it's a weaponized workflow or something like C rings or something I did on OpenSea. Like that's all just working off of Aarondale's toolkit with the Phyllotaxis, I believe, node. It's like a giant spiral thing, and so like I'd figure out a way of making something cool and then make a bunch of pieces using that method. And then obviously all those pieces easily fit in the same collection. And then, that's one collection done, and then on to the next one. Weaponize a workflow and move on. Weaponize a workflow and move on. I say weaponize, but it's more like figure out a cool way of making something and then find a cool way of making variations of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if variations come out too weird or the variations come out too samey, that's sort of my criteria for like, well, this isn't really a cool generator or a cool, collection
Mm-hmm.
seed. Like, it's, you can tell if stuff looks cool every time you jump the seed button or whatever, the random values. If the thing that you're swapping by, the thing you keep changing, if it continues to look cool as you go through, then you got something on your hands. But if you have to really fight it to make something cool every time, then it's probably just something that you make your piece and you move on with it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are definitely some workflows that you can get going in Blender that you can create entire collections from, because every output is fascinating.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen Purz's C Ring collection, is that right? It's called C Ring.
Yeah, C rings. Yeah.
Yeah, C Rings. It's a really, really beautiful collection. My partner actually has one of Purz's pieces up on his artifact room. Um, and that collection was minted on what blockchain, and where on what marketplace did you share that?
That was my first Ethereum. Drop or whatever. My first Ethereum collection on OpenSea.
Mm-hmm.
I chose OpenSea at the time because of their lazy minting. You basically pay one gas fee one time, and then you can mint whatever you want and list whatever you want going forward. Whereas on every other marketplace, basically on Ethereum, you pay for every part of the transaction, every step of the way. So OpenSea has a great policy for lazy minting, but there's a whole other argument about provenance and owning your work. And going forward, I'll probably start minting on my own contract, and then listing those pieces on the various marketplaces. But that way, I'll be able to maintain provenance of my own contract. But that's a whole
And
other thing.
yeah, I'm interested in diving in a little bit into that. So what are the advantages of holding it on your own contract? And like technically speaking, what does that look like? You mint on a specific blockchain, and then have you generate through a smart contract generator, and then how do you link up the two?
Yeah, well, there's two major blockchain. Okay, so on Ethereum, there's two major platforms I know about for building your own smart contracts, and that's Manifold.xyz, I believe, and the other one is Third Web, I believe they're called. I can't remember what the URL is, so don't go type in random stuff in, because there's a lot of scammers that figure out all the extra URLs. So
Okay,
I think it's Third Web. If you look Third Web, Web 3 or whatever. Anyway,
we'll link it in the
so the point
description.
is, yeah, the point is Manifold will let you create your own contract, and that contract basically is agnostic to what marketplace it's on. So if I make a piece and I mint it on OpenSea, my piece is tied to their contract. So if OpenSea ever goes under, um, we might not have access to move those NFTs around and things like that, if it's dependent on their contract having a certain verification set when they move. So probably that won't happen. I'm sure there are measures in place, but I guess the bigger point is if OpenSea one day decides that I can't mint because I'm in Canada, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
which is happening to a lot of people, because there's a sanction right now against Cuba, lots of places in Ukraine, and a few other countries, and OpenSea has just stopped doing
Wow.
business with them. So has Known Origin, so has anyone who needs to meet their SWIFT sanctions. I don't even know what it is exactly, but that can't happen if you own your own contract. It can only be pulled from marketplaces. It's so things like that of owning your own, owning your own brand, owning your own contract. It's probably worth looking into if you're serious about releasing art on the blockchain, then creating your own contract, because it's the gas fees are not that bad for creating your own contract, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just pay for listing. So You can list on, I think it's Looks Rare is one of them. You can list on OpenSea, and you can list on, there's another great big
Ah,
Ethereum one you can list on as well. So you mint your piece, then you list it on there, and anyone can buy it on any of the marketplaces. Um, and
okay.
I think that's probably the way forward for most people who are skeptical of OpenSea's behavior, or not even OpenSea, but skeptical of a grouped shared contract.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. That seems like the next like evolution and kind of is in line with a lot of the guiding principles, the positive guiding principles that have been surrounding blockchain and NFTs since the beginning, which is about ownership and empowering the
Yeah,
individual. So, like, the more we can empower creators and artists to like own their work, but also still have the ability to make their artwork visible on marketplaces, because that's the big draw of marketplaces, right? Is that, like if you
visibility.
just do everything in your private bubble, like who's going to see it? But if you're able to list on OpenSea, or I don't know what it's like on Super Rare and the other ones. um
Yeah, well, most of them are invite only or application based.
mhm,
So like Looks Rare, Super Rare, Known Origin, Foundation, they're all application invite based.
mhm.
So you can't just mint on those sites anyway. But Looks Rare and OpenSea you can mint on publicly
Okay,
or list on publicly.
list, yeah, yeah. Okay, so you've been your what are your top art marketplaces, Purz, as a
Uh,
creator?
I'm a Tezos. I love Tezos. I talk about Ethereum a lot, but like my home has always been Tezos, and um, it used to be Hic Nunc, but it is gone now.
What happened
So
there to hit Nunk?
uh, the owner left is the most diplomatic way I can put it. Um, he
Okay.
dipped.
Mhm.
Basically, I guess he felt one of the other object.com is another large marketplace on Tezos, but it wasn't. Uh, and then one day they decided they're going to start their own contracts, the ability to mint your work on object. And the owner of Hic et Nunc basically took his ball and went home with it and closed the site
Wow.
because he didn't feel that it was fair for there to be any competition. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically how it went down. Um, there's a lot more to it and stuff, but from the ashes of that, well, the nice part about that is it doesn't matter because on the blockchain it's all open, it's all there. So there was a mirror sites up already, like when he went down. So like the functionality of the blockchain is not tied to a certain website, and that's the other draw of having your own contracts. It's even more provenance of your own sovereignty of your own stuff, you know.
Mhm.
But so Tezos Object took over basically, and then so now it's Object and TIA. TEIA is what Hic et Nunc became. The community rallied together and built a new site called TIA, TEIA.art. And
Yeah.
that's basically the Hic et Nunc replacement from the community. And then there's a bunch of
Gotcha.
mirrors and a bunch of other sites, and then those are the two major ones for NFTs on Tezos. But there's also FX Hash, which is a whole other thing I'd love to talk about. But it's like that
FX hash.
generative tokens, basically, where you build a generator, and then when someone mints a piece, they mint a seed, and that seed drives the piece that they're given. So the piece they generate is generated when they mint it, and it remains that piece forever. So it's almost like a loot box or like a slot machine where it's like you're not sure what you're going to get. You're just going to click mint on the generator, and it's going to make a piece, and you're going to get that piece, and that's your piece, and you can sell it on the marketplace or you can keep it.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love creating generators for it, and it's super fun. And the market's crazy right now.
Do you
Like
use like
the
a GSL or that web-based
yeah, cables.gl, which is
cables.gl?
just web GLSL code wrapped in little nodes that you can plug stuff into, just like Blender.
Okay. I like how you
So
said
you don't have to
wrapped
know.
wrapped in little nodes,
Yeah,
or
because
like
you don't have to
pigs in a
know
blanket.
Yeah, you don't have to know the code. You can just plug stuff in.
Yeah,
And
that's
I like it.
great. Yeah, so
Yeah.
those who are listening, thank you for listening. And you don't have to know code, like be a complete like we're nerds, but like a hardcore nerd to
Oh yeah.
make art, to make digital art, be a digital artist. Um, Purz, I'm just going to like summarize my understanding of the stuff that you just explained. So a blockchain is basically a group. Well, okay, wait, can you define a blockchain for us?
It's like a ledger. That's
Okay,
basically what the blockchain is. It's just a list of transactions.
that's so simple. Okay, so blockchain is a ledger. There's a bunch of different blockchains out there, different ledgers
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
are maintained and hosted by different entities.
Yeah.
And
Decentralized network. It's
a
everywhere
descent
and nowhere.
and nowhere, yeah. So listed and hosted by different decentralized entities. And decentralized, as Purse pointed out, is the key term, which is what makes blockchain so exciting from a like world change standpoint. So if we can all agree on a way to keep track of things, whatever that may be, transactions, artworks, contracts that isn't maintained by a central body, then the hope is that there'll be less corruption because that central body won't be in control of everything. And there's a bunch of systems that people, system makers, can put in place to ensure that there's less corruption and there's fairness all around. This is like obviously extremely high level. There's two different types of uh, cryptocurrencies that use different systems. One system is like proof of stake, another system is proof of work. And this is tied into basically how transactions are processed and verified. Um, and one is more energy intensive than the other. And this like ignited a really big debate in the decentralized DeFi community, and also 3D artists who were excited about NFTs, about whether or not using the blockchain is ethical in terms of its energy consumption in the face of climate change. Um, so an NFT is a non-fungible token that exists on a blockchain, and it's any bundle of metadata that has a specific address. So Purz was talking about different marketplaces that are built on blockchains, that are made specifically for the sharing and transacting of artwork in particular. And Purz has done a lot of research, much more research than me, in terms of what art marketplaces are listening to the community, have like a healthy community ecosystem, and what kinds of systems are used to ensure that nothing falls apart. um, so can you speak to, does that, yeah, how does that sound? Is that all
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I try to keep an eye on it, but you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So where there's giant blocks of finance, there's giant blocks of corruption, and that pretty much goes for everywhere. So these places may seem great, but behind the scenes, you have no idea what's going on. There was a dude at OpenSea that was he was privy to what was going to be showcased a few days before they were showcased. So him and his friends would buy up, you know,
Like
all the
insider
stuff
trading.
right before they went up on the showcase, and yeah, he got boned for it. So it's all on the blockchain. That's the thing I can't stress enough. Is like the transparency is there, and it's there for a reason, and there are much smarter people than us that will be able to figure out what you're up to. So
Hmm.
just be real and just be you, and sell your art or don't.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people who have many critiques about uh, the blockchain, NFTs, and I feel like from what I've read and the people I've spoken to, those complaints kind of stem from um, like fear of like insider trading, like the example you just brought up.
Mhm.
Also, like the energy debate that we just mentioned, um, and also just this concept of digital ownership that people still are wrapping their heads around. Like, obviously, even non-digital ownership, like ownership in general, is a contentious thing that people have a lot of opinions about. So those are some aspects of blockchain NFTs that y'all who are listening can go research and like read about. Those are the main critiques I've come across. But I would like to talk to Purz about the flip side of that. So what positive experiences have you gained through joining these communities and selling your art on blockchains?
Uh, yeah, I mean, for me, all the positivity outweighs any negativity. The environmental concerns of Ethereum are very real, and I don't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's, it's fine, because it's not. It's an insane amount of computing power. But I am looking forward to the future because everything is basically moving proof of stake, which means everything is moving low energy. These are what's the word? Growing pains. You know, there are a lot of arguments about does this even have to exist, and no, it doesn't have to exist, but it does. And as an artist, I think you can absolutely use it for your benefit. And but beyond that, I like collecting art on on the blockchain. I enjoy it. I have a shit ton of art. I have like a lot of it, and I I I don't know. It's a really cool thing for me. Is this idea of having these things that you can display in your gallery? You own that piece, and I flip some too, and it's really cool. And there's a huge potential for people who are really into the financials and flipping and stuff to go really crazy with it. I personally, I just like keeping most of my stuff, and I'll list some things here and there, but for the most part, I just like having this massive gallery of amazing art by really cool artists. And I met so many great people, and I think the one thing that really needs to be spoken about more is how much NFTs help people in places that aren't the West, places that aren't cost of living is like way lower. A $5 sale to them is just like it's a jackpot, and to us it's nothing. You buy a coffee for that, and that type of like direct, I don't want to call it activism because I'm not buying their art for charity. It's amazing
Mm-hmm.
art, and I bought it because it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the gains that they're getting from that is changing their life versus the $5 I would have spent on a sandwich, that is so cool. The direct you get to see the direct impact of your 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 spending or whatever. It's awesome. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
And I've organized a few charity events. We've raised thousands of dollars for people who have had horrible circumstances, and a couple $1,000s for somebody in a place with a very low cost of living, that can really help really help their costs and stuff when something terrible happens. So like just being able to be a part of that has been amazing. So like when everyone's blah blah NFTs are bad, I just think about all the cool stuff that I've been a part of and
Mm-hmm.
will continue to be a part of.
Yeah, like I think NFT communities and stuff are a real vessel for wealth distribution. Um, and like beyond wealth distribution, which you kind of described just now, I've heard you personally talk about how empowering it is as a digital artist to be able to like share your work on like clean, beautiful platforms and to have people invest in your work and invest in you as a digital artist, which gives you like a sense of like value. And at the beginning of this podcast, we just talked about how you I started identifying as a visual artist like 2 years ago when you joined these communities. Um, so that's super, super awesome.
Yeah. And then another really cool thing is when someone you really respect buys your art, it's like, it is an ego boost. And not in a shitty way, or not in a like ego boost way, but in just like a validating, like, okay, somebody who I really respect also likes my stuff. That is huge,
Hmm.
just huge for your just sense of like, is this piece done? Yeah, it's done. I like it. As opposed to, oh, I don't know, maybe I should add some more stuff, or maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. No, it's done. If
Hmm.
you're done, it's done, and that's the piece. And save it for your next piece. And I wish I told myself that 20 years ago, making music. That song's finished. Save that idea for your next song.
Cool.
You have to put it all in the same song.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the things that you inspire me so much on as an artist, like putting my work out there, like letting go of perfectionism and just like allowing, like I really like how you allow your intuition and like how you're feeling about the piece to be the determining factor and not like, hey guys, does this piece look finished yet? Is it photoreal enough? Yeah.
My
Like,
stuff will never be photoreal enough. You know what I mean? Like I'm not concerned with competing with the shader gods because I don't do that stuff. I
mhm.
use that stuff, but I don't do that stuff.
Yeah.
But if their stuff can get me to another place, then awesome. We all win.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I'd
makes,
rather spend $10 on their cool thing and use it, and then use it.
yeah,
Because
totally.
everybody's having fun. It's all good.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So the last thing I want to chat with you about, Purz, is the future of education and the future of work. So personally, for me, I've been like really interested in talking to young people who have been hopping on these Discord servers where like Blenderheads are sharing information on how to learn, how to grow, how to challenge yourself, like as an artist, but also as a coder, people making Python add-ons and stuff like that. Um, what have you seen any like trends develop over the past couple years uh, that have like contributed to your own personal theories about the future of work? Maybe yourself selling NFTs and stuff has changed maybe your work life situation, or have you seen any trends that have suggested big changes in how people learn?
Well, there's a couple things. So there's the terrifying teenagers,
Okay.
Nugget, William, what's his name, William Landgren.
Hmm.
Watching them is just like the okay. So like the access that these kids have is so cool. Like I'm so jealous because I was going to the library to read books and stuff. Like this is crazy what they have access to, and the stuff that I think every year I see it, the ability of the children to absorb more stuff. Like it seems like they can exponentially absorb more things as the years go on. Like I've been watching the kids, and I love it. I think it's incredible, and I hope the future of working and the future of learning for these kids is them not taking the crap from all these ingrained societal things that we have. Like you see it now, the Zennials, the Generation Z, the young kids, they don't take it. They
The
just don't take it.
millennials.
And yeah, the little kids, they don't take it. I love it. The way
Mhm.
they talk to their superiors at work, it's amazing, and it's been a long time coming, and I'm super excited to see what working, in 20 years is going to look like when people like, ending emails with like, no cap whatsoever, Philip.
That's
I just,
that's Purz's utopia.
yeah,
No
it is.
cap in emails.
Yeah. I think it's really cool. And I think all these tools are democratizing everyone's access. Before, to be a web developer, I had to know four foundational languages. I had to know how to integrate stuff into frameworks. And now I can take something from, I forget what it's called. There's a mock-up software. You can take that from that SketchUp mock-up thing into an Adobe program, and it'll poop out a website for you. And then you just host it and you're done. And that's amazing. And I think the gatekeeping that comes with all these people trying to keep their jobs is just going to slow this process down a bit. Because like I've encountered it my whole life, is people who want to keep their positions and stuff, and they tell you that it's really, 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 really hard to
Mm-hmm.
do these things they do, but it's not that hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially on a surface level. Anyone can technically do anything now, which is crazy. Someone who just works as an intern at a company can build their website now,
Yeah,
and it's totally passable as a website.
which
It's
is
so
freaking
cool.
crazy. That's so
It is.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
exciting.
Um. Okay. So like we've got you talked about gatekeepers and people gatekeeping like access to positions. And it used to be that like the like gatekeepers not only gate kept access to positions but also access to like knowledge and resources, and that's no longer the
Yeah,
case really because of
very
the
much.
proliferation of the internet. So now it's more like people are just gatekeeping positions and like money. um
Yeah.
so with
And
that
there's
in
also the
mind,
people that climb up the ladder, jet on the top of the building, and then kick the ladder off.
yeah,
That's another form of that type of gatekeeping, and I see a lot actually in the NFT scene. People will climb over you to get to a certain place, and then
okay,
who are you again?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that whole thing is, there's more accountability now. People don't take it, so it's really cool. That's another thing that's
that is
crazy.
cool. The last question I'll probably throw over to you is about like young people being successful on these really huge platforms, but these platforms not really compensating their content creators, the people who make the platforms what they are, and
Yeah,
often taking advantage of the fact that the bulk of their users and creators are young people. So,
absolutely.
like, I think a big question in the future is like, what does wealth distribution look like across age? And like, ageism being a big factor in that.
Well, it's very exploitative. It always has been. Instagram, TikTok, especially, Twitter. Twitter's well, okay. So, uh, my thing is, and I've been trying to tell everyone this without being annoying about it, or trying not to be annoying about it, is you need to start selling NFTs. um,
Cool.
as an artist, I truly believe that is one way of securing financial independence as an artist, securing your place as an artist in this forthcoming metaverse, whatever the hell is coming. Um, People can feel the way they want to feel about NFTs. It's fine, but at the end of the day, you're posting that content on YouTube, and they're giving you a fraction of what they're making. You're posting your songs on Spotify, you're getting a fraction of what they got. You putting your stuff on Instagram, you're getting nothing. They're making everything. You put your stuff on Twitter, you get nothing. You put your stuff on Gumroad, you get paid for the stuff that people bought, but oftentimes the price is so low that uh, you know you're not making enough. And I don't know what the solution is. I'd like to keep the price low for people who can't afford this stuff, because it's good to have low prices in low income areas, because everyone should have access to things. But at the same time, it's exploitative, and it hurts to watch very good young artists basically get stomped like that. Because if they went and took some of these pieces and did a curated release, even on a clean blockchain, uh, the self-esteem of like making a piece that you made and having it sell it's indescribable. When someone likes your work, not work you were commissioned to do, not work you did, to replicate something, not work you did as a tutorial, but literally your art. When someone buys it, there's nothing like it. And I think more people need to feel that on a grassroots level, as opposed to this like everything's filtered through Spotify. Like, I just saw Mos Def or Yassine Bey on Talib Kweli's podcast, and he's like, "Who decided to cut a penny into 0.0001 cents and then pay the artist who made the work?" Like, how? Like, when you really think about it, like, and you break it down like that, it is disgusting what's
Yeah.
happening to us.
It's about, you mean to tell me that the source of labor at the center of this experience is supposed to be satisfied and grateful with receiving a portion of a penny.
Who decided to
And I've had
slice
this
the
problem
pennies
with
up?
Spotify my whole life, or since Spotify existed. It's a calling card for me. You put your music on there just because it's available. But if
Mhm.
anyone who really supports music, they'll buy it on Bandcamp or they'll come see you live, because that's the only way you're getting paid.
Yeah. So
Sucks.
as a consumer, you know, there's a responsibility to kind of think about on what platform you're supporting your artists. And if it's possible to support artists, like maybe discover artists on YouTube, on Spotify, and then shift where you engage with that artist, where you consume their work.
Buy their merch.
Buy their merch.
Buy their merch. Buy their merch.
Cool.
That's the advice I give to everybody. Just buy their merch. They got a sweater for sale, buy a sweater. If they got a t-shirt for sale, buy a t-shirt. They're making the most off that transaction out of all the other things. Subscriptions on YouTube are great. Likes are great, but they're nothing. They're just ad views, and ad views are pennies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Merch.
Well, Purz, it's been a joy to speak with you.
You too.
Thanks so much. I don't normally get to see your face, so it's nice to see your face. And do you want to just share with the people who've made it this far? Thank you guys. What you're working on, what you hope maybe they check out if they enjoyed this conversation. Just shout yourself out a little bit.
Oh, sure. I got a website, purz.xyz. You can see most of my stuff there.
XYZ.
I've been doing some holograms with Looking Glass. That's been really fun.
Yes.
Holograms on the internet.com. You can check them out. I got a bunch on there, and I've got a gallery of holograms you can check out from Purz.xyz. There's a link there at the top to the holograms, and you can check them out. That's been really fun. Making the holograms, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, guys, you have
FX Hash. Oh yeah, you got to check it out. It's cool.
Yeah, super cool. Like, I think out of everybody, Looking Glass has been working with creators. They're a holographic display company based in Brooklyn and Hong Kong. Purz has an amazing collection of browser-based holograms that you can check out on his personal website. And by far, it's the dopest collection, I think. So,
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't believe you, but thank you.
Well, I enjoy them. I wouldn't lie.
Yeah, and then all my stuff on Tezos and Ethereum. Check me out. Come have fun. And if you want to get into NFTs and stuff, find me on Discord. Find me on Twitter. Send me a message. Talk to me. I want to help artists get started. I don't want to cut. I don't want your money. I don't want anything. I just,
Heck
get at
yeah.
me. If you're curious, get at me.
I can vouch for this guy over here. He's a good fella. So reach out. Thank you so much, Purz, for being the first guest of Ideation Station and for covering like these smorgasbord of topics with me. So
For sure.
It's been a joy. Yeah, I'll probably chat with you very soon.